What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Sports Talk with Broads podcast, and we have the NBA Finals Game 3 to discuss. The Raptors take care of business in Golden State. The big difference, though, no Klay Thompson, no Looney this time. Kevin Durant still out, obviously, and the Warriors just did not have enough to compete with the Raptors. You got to give the Raptors credit because, listen, they made big shots. They made sure that the Warriors would not make that extra push and make that extra run. They made their shots. They did. And they're up 2-1. That's the big picture. That's the big storyline after this game is over. Even though the Warriors were battling with injury. The main thing you take out of it, Raptors are up 2-1. I'm with my friend Amadeo here. Let's discuss the NBA Finals Game 3. What was your thoughts on this? Because for me, it is what it is, essentially, is how I break this down. It wasn't a game that you can analyze and take things out of because the context is so different because the Warriors literally had no one. But the Raptors are up 2-1 in the series. It doesn't say 1-1 with an asterisk next to it and says the Warriors were unhealthy. It says 2-1. That's the main topic to take out of it.
Yeah, like you said, it was just the Raptors did what they had to do. They came in and just beat up on a depleted Warriors squad. And it was very unexpected before the game. Klay Thompson, we all know that he was getting hurt in Game 3, but we didn't really expect him to be out this game, and he didn't expect himself to be out either. The medical staff basically just told him, hey, you're not playing. And you can tell from every time the cameras take a shot at him, he was pissed. And the Warriors, it was basically just Steph Curry doing all he could. He had an amazing game, but he can't do everything on the court. It's Steph Curry trying to carry a depleted team against the against the Raptors team, who was just basically doing everything they could. And didn't work out, basically.
Yeah, it didn't. Steph Curry had 47 points. He had no one step up. No one. I mean, literally, Draymond Green didn't have a great game. Iguodala wasn't really shooting. I hate this argument that, well, they still have 3 All-Stars coming off the bench and a Finals MVP. Iguodala's 75,000 years old. He's not the same Finals MVP that he was however many years ago. He doesn't have that. He can't shoot a lick. Draymond Green is a different type of player. He's not a scorer. He's not a Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson type all-star, if you will. He brings energy, defense, and doesn't really score like that as if he was a second option on the floor. That's not the same level of all-star that Draymond Green brings to the table. DeMarcus Cousins, he is what it is. This narrative that the Warriors are still stacked, look at their Finals MVP still on the floor, that's silly. I mean, it's silly. The Warriors were extremely, extremely banged up. And Steph Curry, with that 47 points, he could only carry the team as far as he could. But you made a good point about Klay Thompson being upset. And there is speculation going on that the Warriors made this decision. Let's sit Klay Thompson for Game 3 because that hamstring injury, is somewhat an issue. But for Game 4 and moving forward, you might be able to get fully healthy with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant back in the lineup. Wouldn't you take that gamble? Let's throw them out there Game 3, see what happens, and win or lose, whatever. But moving forward in this series, we potentially could be fully healthy. Wouldn't you take that kind of risk?
Yeah, I would take a shot at my team being at least 85% healthy over Klay Thompson playing this game and getting injured even worse than he probably did in Game 3.
I'll say this. You made a great point about Klay Thompson on the sideline being pissed, being frustrated, that facial expression, the body language. I loved that from a competitor standpoint. I know people don't want to sit. I know people want to play. It's the NBA Finals. This dude brought it to a whole nother meaning of I want to play. His attitude, it's in a good way, though. He was pissed off about it in a great way that teammates can vibe off that and just see the frustration and see the compete level that he has as an athlete. I respect the hell out of how pissed off that he really was.
Mm-hmm. That just shows you how badly he wants this and just how a true competitor he is. He wants to go out there no matter what. And he's not a guy that'll just sit there just because he stubbed his toe. He'll go out there no matter what.
Can you imagine Klay Thompson stubbed toe this morning drinking coffee?
Oh God. Medical staff says no, you can't go out there and play. You stubbed your toe.
That's the Sixers medical staff. But no, I mean, listen, I gave credit to the Raptors because you take a look at their starting five. They all scored over 17 points. Siakam had 18, 9, and 6. Kawhi had 30 points, 7 and 6. Gasol, 17 and 7. Lowry, 23 and 9. Danny Green, 18 points, and he was nailing a bunch of threes. Fred VanVleet came off the bench and was a spark. Serge Ibaka came in defensively. Everyone stepped up, but you do need to factor in, on the other side, you have Jerebko, Sean Livingston, Iggy playing legitimate minutes as a different type of role than he should be playing. Cook coming in. You are going up against different type of players on the other end, so they're getting different looks based off the fact that you don't have the Warriors' best players on the court, but they made their shots. They were nailing them. They shot 45% from three, 52% from the field. They were making sure the Warriors wouldn't come into the game at all, so you got to tip your cap. I'm trying to find a way to dive into this deeper, to go to the second level thinking on how this series is going to play out based on a game like this. And there really isn't something I can take from a standpoint of analyzing the ball game because there's just not talent on the floor. There's no talent on the floor for the Warriors.
Yeah, and when you think of it, if majority of your starting five can score over 17 points, you're definitely going to win the ball game, but you also got to take in the fact that it was mainly the bench of the Warriors starting with Draymond Green and Steph Curry. So just to say if Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant were in the lineup, you probably don't see the entire Raptors lineup scoring above 17 points in this game. This game would probably be way closer than it already was.
Oh, yeah. Klay Thompson is an elite defender in this league. Actually, he's elite. He's Kawhi level. Kawhi's a step above, but still, he's in the elite category. Imagine the Raptors' defense as a team without Kawhi Leonard. Well, that's what the Warriors are somewhat dealing with. It does bother me that I'm sitting here running with this narrative that, well, the Warriors didn't have their full guys. It does bother me, because I even stated this in the beginning. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The scoreboard says 2-1 Raptors, so it doesn't matter if they were playing or not. But I can't take that out of the scenario right now. I can't take that out of what happened. It was a monstrous difference. And I do hate that I'm running with this as the takeaway of the game. But it is the takeaway almost. It is. You can't factor that out. You can't just run that out of the picture. The Warriors played with a bench all game long. I hate it. It bothers me. It really does. It bothers me. But it's reality.
Well, I mean, you can't ignore that fact because it was probably one of the main reasons the Warriors weren't in this game to begin with. I mean, I'm just going to go off that point saying if majority of their starting lineup was in there, you don't see majority of the Raptors starting lineup scoring that many points, especially players like Kyle Lowry, who's been... This was probably one of his best games scoring.
Well, this is Kyle Lowry in a nutshell for the Raptors. Coming into this series, his big knock was he can't get it done in the playoffs because he was always playing with DeMar DeRozan, and those two were like the two guys, and they could never get past LeBron. And this is him in a nutshell. He has great games like this. He had another game where he scored 30-something points it was either in the Eastern Conference Finals or I forget where it was, but he was a monster player and a difference maker. He has games like that. He has games like he had last night, but then he has those 7-point games with 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and he gets worked a little. He's hit or miss depending on the game, but now that there's Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol, Pascal Siakam, it doesn't affect it as much as when he was the second guy with DeMar DeRozan. So he doesn't need to be the second option anymore. So he doesn't need to have these type of nights for this team to succeed every single night. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the outlook on Kyle Lowry with this squad compared to when he was a top guy on the team. I do want to go ahead and say, man, do the NBA referees suck. They really do, though. I can't believe it. I don't want to go back into the robot discussion on how we can make this better, but it blows my mind that for the NBA Finals, it's that bad. They were a storyline for me at the half on how garbage they can be during a final. During a final. You're missing a... If you're not watching the ball, I don't know what you're watching. I forget who it was exactly, but the ball hits the backboard on a layup, and then the Raptors block it. That's a clear goaltending. What are you watching? There was another play late. Bogut, the ball's running around the cylinder of the basketball of the rim. It comes out. He taps it in. They say it was interference because it was still in the cylinder. No, it wasn't even close. What are they watching? These blocks and charges. What are they watching? How can they be that bad during a final round?
I mean, I don't want to say human error is involved, but you can't be this. You can't be this bad.
Bad?
I don't know. I want to say another word than bad, but bad is the only word you can use to describe it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how a set of referees can just be terrible in a finals. Like, when the league picked these guys, I'm assuming these guys have been the best throughout the playoffs. That's why these referees are in the NBA finals to begin with, but they don't look like they're good.
No, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. I'm okay with a bad call here and there because that's reality. Like you said, that's human error. But I'm sorry, 7 bad calls on each side? I get it's consistent because it's bad on both sides. At least it's that way. But it should never be that way. You're telling me you can't get these calls right? 7 bad calls on each side? Now, that's not a legitimate 100% number. I'm just spitballing. But it might even been worse than 7 on each side. It was that horrendous. I don't get it. And it ruins it. Why should when I'm watching the game and I got my notebook, I'm pumped to discuss sports after the game, why is one of the topics, why are the refs so bad? It should be that way. It should be the Raptors are making shots. The Warriors are struggling because all they have is Steph Curry, who has almost half the points. That should be what is marked down on my paper, not trash can refs again. Fires me up if you can't tell. Fires me up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning drinking my coffee. I'm only halfway done this coffee, all right? If I had 2 cups like I will by 10 o'clock, ooh, I'd be firing.
You'd be jumping up and off the walls, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just the fact that the NBA chooses these refs to officiate these finals, and they have to have some type of discussion with how bad the refs have been. Like, how do we choose the least possible bad situation with referees? How do we choose the just the least worst case scenario?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's pick your poison. We're going to pick the best of the worst because there are no such thing as good refs in the NBA, probably. Is that what we're getting at?
I guess.
Listen, here we are, right? Here we are on a podcast breaking down the NBA Finals. And just like I stated with my notebook, we're talking about this. This is a conversation that we're having while wanting to talk about Game 3 of the Finals. It's taking away discussion. So, let's try and spiral out of this. Game 4 is Friday. I love the fact that I don't have to wait 7,000 days in between. I think this is the only set of games where it's one day off and then you're back to playing the next night. I think this is the only break during the 7-game series. The NBA always love to push it around and make it long. But the narrative now going into Game 4 is, wow, do the Warriors have some pressure on them? They need to find a way. They can't go down 3-1 going back to Toronto. Now, here's one thing. How fitting would it be for the Warriors to go down 3-1 and win in 7? Wouldn't that be something? I have this gut feeling that it might set up that way to go down 3-1 and then they have to make this miraculous run when people come back. I don't know. I find it to be entertaining to think that that's a possibility after blowing the 3-1 lead to the Cavs.
So you're saying that Warriors lose game 4, then game 5 they get their whole lineup back, and they come back and beat the Raptors in 7.
I'm not saying that's how it's going to play out. I'm saying, wouldn't that be an interesting story to happen if it happened where, a couple years ago, here's this big bad Warriors team up 3-1, and LeBron has the monster block, makes it all happen, Kyrie with the big shot in game 7, and then a few years later, the Warriors are down 3-1 and they come back. It would be unique and something where you almost write a story about, as if sports are so crazy. It's crazy how it all works back around in full circles. I think it would be an awesome storyline, but I don't think that's how it's actually going to play.
If that were to happen, that'd probably be one of the better championships the Warriors have won in recent
it would be their
years.
best.
Yeah.
It would be their best. You can compare it to, not for the Warriors standpoint, but what did Virginia just go through? Virginia lost in the first round to a 16 seed, and then the next year they win the Natty Ship. It would be on that type of level of, wow, sports are beautiful. So, realistically though, going into Game 4, without saying the 3-1 series deficit is going to happen, the pressure has moved back towards the Warriors in a pretty harsh fashion. Let's be real. Not only on the players to make it happen, even though I know they've been in this situation before, I don't think anyone in the Warriors locker room is freaking out, scared, thinking, this is all over. They've been around the block enough to understand that, listen, it ain't over until someone wins 4 games. So I don't think they're stressing out on that standpoint. But as a team, they need to find a way because of injuries. As a medical staff, as a coaching staff, they need to find a way to say, okay, what is priority right now? What are the priorities? Do we get Klay out there at 75%? Do we wait another game to make sure they're really getting going? Because if they wait another game, they don't play again till Monday. So if you give them off from yesterday to Monday, and then they go on Monday full throttle, will that give them 100% back compared to, 75 if they were to go Game 4? What's the priority here as a medical staff on getting these guys going out there? It's tricky of a situation if you're involved, and I don't know where they're going to go. I hate that it came down to this. No one wants to see injury. I want to see these guys out there competing. That's why the NBA Finals are so special. The big moment, big stars show up at big moments. Right now, I don't have that feel for the Golden State Warriors, so I want them to come back as soon as possible just from an entertainment standpoint. But all the pressure is clearly looking at Golden State right now as Toronto takes back home court advantage.
Yeah, and just all I could say going into Game 4 is just, if you don't have a Klay Thompson out there, if you don't have Kevin Durant back, which is probably not going to be, just someone go out there and help Steph Curry, because he's doing all he can. Scoring 47 points, I mean, the guy had an incredible night. Someone just step up and help him, because he had no help.
I don't think, I know, if it comes down to having to play the same lineup for the Warriors in Game 4, man, this thing is over. This thing is over. I don't know if anyone stepping up is really going to be the difference. Although if the Raptors just missed a couple more threes or just missed a couple more shots, it could have been different. As much as I say the Raptors made shots to make sure the Warriors didn't get involved, and as much as I said the Warriors just didn't have enough, that is reality. But there were spurts, there were tiny pushes where the Warriors cut it to 7, and then the Raptors made that big shot. If one of those shots don't fall in Game 4, who knows where that run could be? There were a couple runs that got a little intriguing, not to a legitimate extent, but just a tiny bit intriguing, just in comparison to where the game was at the whole time, where I sat there and said, whoa, that was a potential run for the Warriors, but the Raptors made that opportunity go away. If the next game the Raptors miss that opportunity, who knows where it can go? I wouldn't put my money on it. I'm just saying there were a couple spurts where it was a little bit more oomph than other times during out the game.
I mean, like, what you're going back on, the Raptors were making their shots, they were making the big plays. It kind of reminded me of Game 1, honestly, because the Raptors in Game 1 were making the shots they had to make. And then in Game 2, the shots weren't falling. So is it going to be that kind of series where one game everything's falling for you, then the next game it doesn't? That's Hopefully it doesn't happen for the Raptors, but in my mind, that's why my gut feeling it's going to happen.
What, they're going to miss their shots next game?
Yeah, just like not everything is going to fall for them is what.
Well, I'll say it like this. I was watching, sitting there saying, are the Raptors wasting one of their really good games on a game that isn't needed to that full level? You're right. They're making all these shots. They're crushing it. They're killing it. They're making the shots they didn't make a few games ago. But is this a game where they needed that? And obviously, you don't sit there and say, hey, boys, we don't need this game today to make all the shots, so let's not make them all so we can save it for next time. It doesn't work like that. But I'm sitting there saying, do the Raptors have this type of night on a game where, the Warriors are hanging around, but they don't really have the full it, and then next game where they need all those shots being made, it's not falling to the same level that they made in Game 3.
Yeah, that would be very detrimental because you bring your all-out against the team when it's fully depleted, but what say if they get maybe one player back, and that's Klay Thompson, and Klay Thompson does have a game for his own? What if a lot of your players like Siakam, he doesn't get his shots to fall? What if players like Danny Green doesn't get his shots to fall? That's probably at least 5 or 10 points off the board right there.
Well, I'll tell you this. You mentioned Klay Thompson, and defensively, he would be on Kawhi. And when he's on Kawhi, he changed the outcome of the game, too. So, Kawhi goes off for 30, 7 and 6. That changes when Klay is on him. It does. As much as you want to say Kawhi is a robot, he is. But take a look at what Klay can do defensively on him. We watched it. It changed the game in Game 2. And then you watch Kawhi tonight go around Bell, or last night. He was torching Bell, one-handed dunk. It was no one, not a soul could even try and defend that man yesterday. It just, no one could. Klay can. So you're right, he gets 30. Well, what if he doesn't get 30 because Klay's on him and Klay holds him to 20? But while Klay holds him to 20, Klay's also putting up 27 on the other end. You can't say that Steph Curry would drop 47 if Klay was out there because he wouldn't take as many shots, so Steph wouldn't have 47 either. But it's just, it is different when you have different defenders out there, and Klay, I know they already missed Looney and I know they missed Kevin Durant, but the addition of losing Klay, the addition of losing that one guy on top of the other two, it just puts it to a whole nother degree of what you have to put out on the floor if you're the Warriors. At one time, I'm watching this lineup of Livingston, Cook, Iggy, Jerebko, and Boogie Cousins. And yeah, sure, that can happen sometime during another game, but that was legitimate minutes. That wasn't a 2-minute span to get Steph and Klay some rest. This was legit minutes in an NBA final to try and win a basketball game against Kawhi, Siakam, Danny Green, Fred VanVleet. I'm sorry, but that lineup you're running with isn't going to win you anything.
Completely agreed. And going back on Cousins, didn't he leave the game early?
I don't know if he left it early. I know he had his ankle or something all taped up, or not taped up, iced up. He was banged up. He was something else in Game 2. Today, he was what he was in Game 1. Why do I keep saying today? The game was last night. You know why? Because I'm so used to recording videos the same day after the game's over, so I guess my mind just goes that way. But DeMarcus Cousins was trash in Game 3 and Game 1. I would probably guess he would be more on the trash side than he was in Game 2. If I had to, guess the future, I'd say he'd probably have more bad games than good games is what I'm getting at, just based off the fact that he hasn't played in forever. He's coming off of the injury, and he's not up to speed when it comes to conditioning, and he had to go up against Gasol and Ibaka, which he did a great job in Game 2, but today he got eaten alive. You also have to factor in you don't really have many guys coming off the bench that can give him some energy and some relief without having to stress about it while he sits there on the bench. So, for DeMarcus Cousins' purposes, he is what he is. You're going to get nights like this because he just hasn't been involved enough. He hasn't played enough. He's been banged up too much, and that's reality of the situation.
Yeah, and you really can't expect a guy that has been injured majority of the regular season, then got injured at the start of the playoffs. You really can't expect him to come into game one of the finals and play lights out. It's going to take him a few games to get back into rhythm, and especially in the finals, it's going to be a difficult task to get back into rhythm.
Oh, yeah, he's going to need it, and he showed us what he can do in Game 2. The difference on people who can be solid and then be really good in this league is consistency. If DeMarcus Cousins played like he did in Game 2 every single game and you know what you're going to get every single game, you say, wow. But if you throw a Game 2 in there and then you have 3 Game 3s and then you throw another Game 2 in there, that's the difference between being really great in this league and then being a good player, a nice player. It's funny because these are the type of moments where players get contracts out of. You take a look with... Who was the one player? Dellavedova. Dellavedova got a huge pay, got a big contract after the NBA Finals. And these are the type of players, DeMarcus Cousins, who's going to get a big payday maybe after the NBA Finals. So it's just funny that, I don't know, I watch the NBA Finals sometimes and think, who's going to be that free agent that has a great run, a great finals, and then someone pays him big-time money to come to their team, and they aren't the same type of player. Boogie is that when I look at it.
Yeah, I could see that happening 100%. He goes to another team, and he's just not the same player that he was.
I also think you can't run your offense through DeMarcus Cousins, and yesterday was a weird situation because you can only do so much with what's on the floor. But as a whole, I don't know how we're getting sidetracked into another team picking up DeMarcus Cousins in the future. But here we are. If DeMarcus Cousins goes on a team and that team wants to run play through DeMarcus Cousins, that you're not going to be successful as an offense. When the Warriors did that in the season, they realized it, and then they stopped running the offense through him in the post. He's just a good body that can dominate and grab boards, and he added some things to his game. You even see him knocking down threes and whatnot now. He does add things to a team, and he can stretch the floor somewhat. I'm not going to sit here and say my man can insanely knock threes down, but he is not someone to run your offense through and play through. He's just a really good center, in my opinion. But he's a guy that a team will overpay for as a UFA, potentially. I know they didn't last year because of the injury, and he's been banged up again now this year. Maybe that's why a team won't take a shot on him based off of injuries. But he is someone that I look at and say, I know teams are eyeballing him and might want to pay him in the future as a UFA.
Yeah, and it does come back down to the point where injuries scare away teams if a guy is injury prone. Even though he's a good player and he probably could make a lot of money, injuries do come back to haunt you in payday, honestly.
Oh, yeah, especially like him. He had an Achilles, and then he went down in this playoff run with I don't know if it was a hammy. It was something, though. It was something that definitely sidelined him, and you're right, the injury can play a factor. I want to try and take this game and say, Raptors, you tip the cap. You give him one of these, like a little cowboy when you walk into the swinging door bar, you tip and say, you did your job. You did your job. I want to try and get away from the Warriors were banged up. That was my initial feeling after the game, and I still feel that way now, but I've had time to sleep on it. I've had my coffee, and I need more. I definitely need more. And I'm starting to move past the injury thing. Only to the point of, and I made this statement in the beginning, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If the Sixers were playing in the NBA Finals and the Warriors were banged up, would we say right now, it doesn't really matter because they were banged up, so it doesn't count? We'd be pumped. We'd be screaming. We'd be fist pumping. We'd be dancing to the Sixers win song. We'd say, I don't give a damn if they're hurt. We're up 2-1. So that's how I want to start feeling about this. That's how I want to start taking this. I'm slowly getting to that point. I'm slowly thinking, okay, the Warriors, they were banged up in Game 3. Let's put that aside. The real important piece here, 2-1 Raptors going into game 4. That's the most important thing. 2-1 Raptors. That's what it is. 2-1 Raptors. The Raptors are 2 wins away from the NBA title. That's it. That's it. That's what is coming out of game 3. That is the mindset for me now.
Yeah, you got to take your wins when it's due. So the Raptors just did what they had to do, despite injury depleted team or not.
Yeah, they did what they had to do. You're right, because the alternative was the Raptors to lose. Now, if the Raptors lost this game, you would say it's over. It's over. They lose to a team that just has Steph Curry. The series is essentially over when they get their guys back. That was the alternative. And it was almost a lose-lose situation for the Raptors, because if you fall in this game, like I said, everyone claims it's all over. You lose to a team with really nobody, and yeah, that's it. Everyone's kind of writing you off, and it kills your confidence without a doubt. And the other side of the lose-lose is, well, how we started this. Yeah, they won, but their players weren't even playing. The Warriors didn't have their guys. So there was no win situation coming out of the Raptors, really. It was a lose-lose when it comes to media and what's going to happen here. For the Warriors, I mean, it's almost a win-win, if you will. You win, and it's holy hell, we pulled it off. And then the other side of the win is, hey, we lost, but we know what we can be without our team. So it was a very odd thing to even go into. It was an odd feel from a fan's perspective watching the game. It just had, for an NBA final, it just didn't have that juice, because you're not watching the best play. You're not watching one team actually play to their full capability. It was an odd game watching as a fan.
Just going on the fact that the what if the Raptors lost this game? Imagine the Toronto media ripping apart this team. Imagine.
It would be embarrassing.
For as bad as they rip apart the Maple Leafs, imagine just how bad they would rip apart this team for losing to a depleted team. When you add your entire starting lineup.
Yeah, no. You're not wrong. Toronto is a passionate fan base when it comes to sports. They are. I don't think they're as. I mean, they're an East Coast team in the fact of Canada. Like, for example, what I'm trying to say is, on the East Coast here in the U.S., New York, Boston, Philly, we treat our sports like it's the only thing that matters. In Canada, Toronto is a city that is like an East Coast team. They are the passionate fan base in comparison to Calgary and things like that. They care about their teams too, but Toronto has that extra pump about them. I heard an interesting conversation between two people, and now that you mention it about the Toronto media, I'll throw it your way. Do you think the Raptors truly care about the Raptors' success, or do they want a championship? So what I'm saying, would the Raptors take this? The next 7 years of Kawhi Leonard with an opportunity to win a title. You don't know if they're going to win a title. They can win 1, they can win 0, they can win 4. Or do they just want this title now and they don't care if Kawhi walks? So my thing is, do they just want the title, or do they really want success for the Raptors for a long period of time? What do they want? Now, you can put it in the Sixers' shoes and say, well, what would you choose to kind of start your thought process? Because to me, how I would answer this, I'll go first. I'll say this. With Kawhi Leonard, you can see this year what this team can do. I know it's easy to say, I want the title now, but give me Kawhi Leonard for 7 years. I'm rolling the dice and saying, I'll take Kawhi Leonard for 7 years because I want, and I'm tying it back into Sixers because that's my home blood here. I'll take the Sixers for a 7-year window of championship legit runs over one definite title. That's my personal opinion. But do the Raptors really care about their team and their franchise, or do they just want a title?
I mean, it comes back to that conversation where we stated in NBA where a run is really not considered successful unless you win 2 or 3 championships. Say the Raptors, they win this one title. Just say if it happens, and they let Kawhi walk. What would the fans think? they probably would think if we kept Kawhi, we could probably become.
You could probably become what? I'm sorry, I lost a little bit of your audio. You're good now.
Yeah, they could probably become like, I wouldn't say the next Warriors to say they can at least win maybe like another 2 or a third championship if they kept Kawhi long term. Say if they win a championship this year, but I wouldn't say it would be successful. But you can't really question the Toronto Raptors franchise if they just want this one championship or not.
I know what you're saying. You can't bash them for saying they won a championship. It was an interesting conversation that I heard. I'm not making this up. I've heard it on a sports discussion, and it was just interesting because it is interesting to look at it in that perspective. I'm not trying to say Toronto Raptors fans aren't passionate about their team. There are plenty of Toronto Raptors fans that feel the way they do about the Raptors than we do about the Sixers and Eagles. There is. I mean, that's reality. They have a very good fan base. It's just interesting to see as a whole entire city, and is it about the one title for the city, the one title for Canada as a basketball country, or do they really want success throughout? It's interesting. Take it for what it is. But I bring up the Raptors fans being passionate. Did you hear them yesterday in Oracle? After legitimate buckets being made, you hear them over the other. You hear them over the crowd. You hear the cheers. You hear these fans screaming. They traveled. And I made that point in my post-game show. A lot of people commented that there are a lot of Toronto and Canadian people that are in the Bay Area, so that makes a lot of sense. But man, I'll tell you what, they were loud, and I heard them.
Yeah, it's always a nice sight to see your fans travel wherever you go. It's like the Philadelphia fan base; they travel literally everywhere we go. You see the Sixers go out to California, you'll see a ton of Sixers fans there. You'll see the Flyers travel out to California. I'll tell you, me and my family were in LA, and there was a ton of Flyers fans in Staples Center.
I'll say this. You go to LA, and there's so many people from so many different... You go to LA, and it's not, oh, I grew up in LA. There is a variety of people. A variety of people. I don't know if you go to Oracle, Game 3, Sixers versus Warriors, I don't know if you get that same type of travel from the Sixers that the Raptors had last night. And like I said, that could be because a lot of people from Canada live in the Bay Area now. I don't know if you'll hear Sixers fans over the Warriors fans like you did last night. I could be wrong. And listen, I know this city, and I know this fan base. Die hard, they do whatever. I just don't know if it would have been to that extent last night. You have to keep in mind, since the Raptors were up 2, Oracle was a little bit down. If it was a 2-point game the whole game, I don't know if you'll hear as many Raptors fans because Oracle would be at a louder level. But you did hear them. I don't know if the Sixers fans would have been that loud. Maybe I'm downplaying the Sixers fan base right now. We are talking the NBA Finals. I just don't think it would have been. Call me crazy.
Hey,
Call me crazy. I'm crazy. I mean, look what I do. I'm crazy. Here we go, though. We're in the middle of the NBA Finals. I'll say this. I don't know if it really feels that way. Does it feel that way that we're middle NBA Finals? Is it the amount of days in between the games that are maybe not getting me as into it as I have been in the past? Is it maybe because I'm a LeBronsman, and without LeBron, I don't have that same juice behind watching two teams go at it that I don't really care about? Is it because what I stated before, that knowing the Warriors aren't at full speed, that it seemed watered down? I don't know what it is, but it seems like there isn't that. I love the NBA Finals. We talk about it. I get all giddy for it. I do. It's one of the best moments in sports for me. I do love the NBA Finals. But I will say, if I'm normally a 12 out of 10 when it comes to my excitement, I'm more like a 9 out of 10 right now. It's hard for me to really fully get engaged, and I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's the break. I wonder if it's I don't have a connection due to LeBron or the Sixers not being there. I don't know. Do you feel the same way as me, though?
I mean, finals in general, it's always exciting to watch, but when there's like not that one key factor that makes you want to watch it, I think you just watch it as a casual fan. You're not really into it. So like say you're the LeBron guy and LeBron's not in the finals or the Sixers are not in the finals. There's not that one it factor that makes you desperately want to watch it.
Yeah, but as a diehard sportsman that I am, I do still get that juice for watching it too, because it is the NBA Finals. So I guess that does make sense, because like I said, I'm still a 9 or 9.5 out of 10. That's still very high. I'm just not a 12 out of 10 looking for the games every single night. I'm a 9.5 out of 10 for whatever that means.
Or it could be the fact that what the Warriors are going through right now, it's just like you think it could be better, honestly.
Yeah, the product could be better. The product could be better. Imagine being a Sixers fan, and it's Warriors Sixers, and you don't have Embiid or Tobias Harris going into a game. It's almost to that level for the Warriors. You know, It's desperate times for them, without a doubt. So if I told you right now that Game 4 will have Kevin Durant, do the Warriors win this game?
So are you saying just Kevin Durant? Or
I think just Kevin. I have a feeling. Apparently, he's so optimistic. He's got an extra pep in his step. These are all reporters after the game talking about they've spoke with Kevin Durant. Steve Kerr was very optimistic. It comes down if Kevin Durant can play in practice or not, and we will find that information out today, I'm sure, after this podcast is recorded. I don't know if Klay is going to be ready. It's going to be hard to keep him off the floor just based off of him internally and how badly he wants to play and how persistent he is on playing. I have a feeling that Kevin Durant might come back and Klay might sit. If that is the case, and we're just hypothetically speaking here, do you think the Warriors win the game? I think that they do. I think Kevin Durant is gonna have that dog mentality. He's been sitting out for almost a month now, but most people I would say, he hasn't played in a month. For Kevin Durant, I say I don't think that matters. He's going to go out there and be a killer. If Kevin Durant is back, I think it's a win. No matter if Klay is back or not, I think it's a win for KD and the Warriors in Game 4. If it just won. I think Klay's hammy might be a little bit worse than people think, and with that being said, since they don't play till Monday, like I've stated before, sitting out for Game 4 but getting Kevin Durant back, it might be a fair trade-off, and at that point, and I think the Warriors can do it if that's the case.
Yeah, I see what you mean from right there, but I still have the what if in my mind, just to say, if he does come back, and you say like he has a dog mentality, doesn't matter, he's gonna go out and play to his heart's content. But what if he goes out there, since he's been injured for at least a month? What if he doesn't have it? What if he just what if he's just not ready enough yet? He's not ready enough to go out there and be that game changer that he can be. What if he doesn't have it?
You're talking Kevin Durant, though. If you were saying, we bring it back to the Sixers, what if Tobias Harris comes back after a month off and he's not shooting well? Well, okay, I'd say that's probably a good chance. But right now we're talking about Kevin Durant in the NBA Finals down 2-1. If he doesn't have it, well then, that's a tough spot to not have it. And we're talking about an elite player in this league. In my opinion, number 2 in the entire league after LeBron James. So I don't know if a guy like Kevin Durant is just not going to have it in this type of moment. He's the player that takes this moment and runs with it. That's what his type of player does. You have a point. There is a chance that he goes out there and bricks 7 shots. But I'm talking about a guy who is supposed to be the guy in these moments. So I can't expect him to have those type of nights. Not in this situation.
Yeah, I think just thinking about that, because there's just been a lot of moments where I commit to one thing and then that thing doesn't play out. That's why I'm stuck in the middle right now. I'm not going to fully commit to it I'm not going to fully commit to Kevin Durant going out there and having a game.
Yeah, no doubt. I get that. It was all hypothetical, of course, and I'm normally not a big hypothetical guy. I'd rather run off of what's actually happening, and like you said, the what ifs, and that's what a hypothetical is, of course. I normally like to say, well, there's no reason for that conversation, because guess what? Here's reality. You don't know. But in the back of my mind, looking into where this is going to take us for the future of this finals on Friday night, there is something that just has been sitting around in my stomach saying one of the two are going to be back. One of the two. And if it is Klay and not Kevin Durant, I think that says a lot on where KD really is. You know? If Klay comes back before Kevin Durant, KD is in a really bad situation. I knew it was horrendous from the jump. I knew it was worse than what it was perceived with the calf. But where is he now? You know, where is he now when his team is down 2-1? If Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, not Tobias Harris, not Iguodala, Kevin Durant, if he can't go in a situation where the team is really down in an NBA Finals, it's way worse than a calf strain or whatever the hell they called it.
Yeah, and I'm all for optimism. I get that he's being optimistic because he wants to get back out there, but we haven't seen like a clear sign that he's 100% ready to go. Because I get optimism, you want to get back out there, but until I see something clear cut, I'm not going to say he's really ruled in to playing Game 4 or even playing the series yet.
No, I'm basing this off of the reporter saying that Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant had an extra jump in their step when being asked questions about Kevin Durant. You also had the owner come out there at one point and say something that you will see Kevin Durant in this series. So it seems like it's leaning towards the fact that they're believing he's on his way back to being able to practice. And if he can practice, then he will be ready to play in the game. But all around, your final thoughts on Game 3 as we wrap up. Hit me with your final thoughts. Every time I say that, I think of Jerry Springer. Jerry's final thoughts. By the way, quick random-ass story. I went to Jerry Springer live. When I played junior hockey in Vermont, our owner, we had a showcase in Connecticut. And our owner said, everyone bring your IDs because we're going somewhere after the showcase. And we're all sitting around saying, what the hell? Where are we going? A strip club? What do you need your IDs for at 18? Like, where the hell is our owner taking us? And believe it or not, we show up to Jerry Springer live, dude, after this showcase, right? We all have these shirts on that say, hockey players get it in deep. Our owner made them. Like, it's funny, right? They made us take it off in the show. And I'm saying, you have all these people in the stands, hammered, flashing their boobs to everybody on TV. We can't wear a shirt that says hockey players get it in deep. So they made us take it all off. But just in case anyone cared, it is fake as hell. And when I say it is fake as hell, they tell you when to stand, they tell you when to chant Jerry, and they're all actors on the stage. It is their first attempt to act. When I tell you it is acting, it is 100% a script act. So when they do ones that are so bad that they can't use in the show, it makes you cringe with how bad the performance really is. There is my 2-minute rant on Jerry Springer. What are your final thoughts on Game 3? And maybe my Jerry Springer story.
I mean, if people don't realize that those shows like that are fake, there's something wrong with them probably.
Well, you always know fake, but this is... You never know what fake really means, you know? Do they really hate each other, but it's scripted-ish? No. These are 100 actors that were trying to get into New York, and this is their first acting job.
Well, back to the...
what matters.
Back to what matters. Taking from Game 3, basically what we stated earlier, the Raptors they did what they had to do. Despite the depleted Warriors team, they went in there and they won a game in Oracle, which is a tough place to play in. So, hats off to the Raptors. They did what they had to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, nice and quick, and you know what? You nailed it. You nailed it. The Raptors took care of business. They don't care who's on the other team. They don't care who's playing or not. They need to go out there, win themselves a basketball game, take back home court advantage. And listen, they did. They did. So I'm going to start slowly moving away from the narrative of, well, they were injured. I can't forget that, and I can't forget that moving forward into Game 4. End of the day, 2-1 series. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate it. We will be back with more. Amadeo, you did a great job once again. I appreciate you hopping on for me.
No problem, no problem. Always willing.
Yeah, you are always welcome too, though.
Just don't fall asleep on me again.
Yeah, I accidentally fell asleep this morning. Damn, what are you going to do? Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next time.